I'm Karl Thomson. I'm a sales engineer here at Storagecraft, and since the launch of our Arcserve Solo earlier this year, we've been super excited at the momentum and the interest that we've been getting around this product. And really what I wanted to do was take you through a bit of an inside glimpse. It's been a bit tough with the travel, with the COVID restrictions, and we've done a lot of webinars and deep dives into it, but I thought, look, let's try and make this a bit more interactive, a bit more hands-on, and get a real look and feel for it. So I'm going to take you through it and look at a bit of a live demo and really get a feel for why there's been so much interest and we're getting really good traction in the market here. So really the whole thing with the Solo, it's a nice little plug and play box. That's the whole idea, plug and play disaster recovery as a service. One of the sort of first things I noticed with this box is that on the back of it there's no VGA or HDMI connection, and really you plug it into the Ethernet. You've got some USB ports if you want to attach hard drives, but that's it. It's that simple. It will automatically register in the cloud. If you do plug in a USB hard drive, or even if you like, you've actually got the little pull-out bay here. You can put a hard drive inside. It'll automatically register in the cloud. You can then have your backups go directly to the storage or direct to cloud. Even if you've got a NAS on site, the customer's got an existing NAS, we can send the backups there. So really you've got the flexibility around where the backups go. If you are backing up to some local storage, we can then have a copy replicate into the Storagecraft cloud. So really, really simple. This technology is based on ShadowSafe, so I really like to call the Solo, in simple terms, it's a ShadowSafe gateway, effectively. So if you are familiar with ShadowSafe, what you generally do on site is you'll deploy a service node. So the service node is a VM that goes into Hyper-V or VMware, and with Solo, that's what this is. It's a ShadowSafe service node running on the hardware, and again, it's a gateway, so you don't have to add any storage at all. We can back up those machines directly to the cloud, but if you do add some storage, we can have different retention on site, whether you want to keep the backups locally for a year or 7 years, and then a copy in the cloud for DR, should we have some sort of catastrophic failure on site. So the idea around local storage is giving us nice, fast local backups, very quick recovery. Probably one of the coolest things with ShadowSafe and the Solo is we can instantly boot those backups directly into Hyper-V, directly into VMware. In less than a second, those VMs can be created and starting to boot. As they boot, they can backfill the data out of the storage locally or out of the cloud to completely seamlessly migrate back into a fully migrated VM. So it's not a BDR, it's not designed to virtualize backups on this device, it's designed to leverage your existing hypervisor. So Hyper-V, VMware, instantly boot right back where that VM came from to quickly get back up and running with the performance of your production hypervisor. And should we have a problem there, that's where the Storagecraft Cloud Disaster Recovery as a Service kicks in. We can virtualize there. You can do your IPsec site-to-site VPN back. Users may be going home, they can VPN in from there, port forwarding, VPN access for users, whatever they need to get up and running. And that's really what the solution is designed for, is business continuity. So think of this as disaster recovery in a box. Put it on site. We don't have to worry about deploying any virtual machines into the environment. We can start doing host space backup for Hyper-V VMware machines, direct to cloud. Again, add in some storage, whether it's the slide-in 2.5-inch 7mm drive. You get up to 4 terabyte size disks that you can plug in here, or the USB drive in the back, or a NAS if you want to, otherwise direct to cloud. And that gives you that simple disaster recovery as a service. And the other thing as well is the first time setup. So we have what's called a claim code on the back. So the very first Solo that you put out there, you'll log into our onesystem.storagecraft.com, you'll put in your claim code and you're up and running. For any additional Solos that you order, you'll literally just plug it in and it will automatically register into your account for you. So it's all the fulfillment process is already done, so that when you receive it, you plug it in. One of the cool things I like as well is that when you plug this in, it'll just pick up a DHCP address on your network. You don't need to assign it a static IP. If its IP changes, the way it's designed with the cloud is the machines backing up will know where to go. So it's that simple. You don't have to do anything. If you want, you can jump in, give it a static IP. Additionally, if your network doesn't support static IP, to really simplify this on the back, you'll actually have a Wi-Fi code. So this little box will run a Wi-Fi hotspot. You can connect to it with your laptop, give it a static IP, and away you go. So again, really, really simple. No need to have a console connection or overcomplicate how we connect to this device to get it up and running. But that simple process to get up really simplifies and really is a statement around the plug and play data protection that this device offers. One of the things I get a lot as well is Karl, they say, look, we can now do host-based backup with ShadowSafe, or we can do agent-based backup. What is better, or what would you pick? And that's really one of the cool things now is you can choose. So obviously any physical servers are going to run the agent. If you're running Hyper-V or VMware, you have the option to do host-based backup. And really the way I see that is it's extending the reach and the capability that we have. With the agent, it is sector-based backups. It has its own VSS-aware provider. So anything like SQL, Exchange, Active Directory, SharePoint, anything with a VSS-aware database, the agent is going to get a more high-level consistency and a more of a guarantee that we're going to get the cleanest backup so that when you recover, you're going to have the best state of that system. But on the flip side, you might have VMs that don't run databases. You know, they might be an appliance VM like a firewall or a routing appliance that you can't install an agent into. So, you know, where you have these types of machines, you may say, look, it's a bit easier to do a host-based backup of those ones so we don't have to install an agent and reboot the machine, for example. So, you know, you've got the flexibility now. You're going to see some virtual machines are going to be better to have the agent. If, you know, we have performance challenges with the hypervisor, if it's a really large VM and you're finding the snapshots aren't running that great host-based, put the agent in, you're going to have a better experience. But on the flip side, where you can't or where it's not appropriate to reboot right now, or you're in a scenario where there's change control, you don't have to use the agent. We can do host-based backup. So really simple. All the backups are the same regardless if it's agent, host-based, physical server. We can recover any to any very, very simply. So, you know, it doesn't affect your file recovery, doesn't affect your disaster recovery for instant virtualization on site or in the cloud. All of those backups are the same, giving you a really simple approach to data protection. One of the things you'll see as we go through it is, you know, what's really nice is whether you're using the Solo or the ShadowSafe, it can all be managed by the same StorageCraft Cloud One system. Additionally, it's all driven by a policy. So in a policy, we say how frequent you want to back up. We say what local storage do we want to use, if at all. We say what is the retention you want to have on site, and then we define the replication, and that could be to my off-site location, could be to my partner data center, could be to the StorageCraft cloud, could be to a public cloud. So you have all of that defined in a policy. We can then apply that policy to any physical virtual Hyper-V VMware machine, and that single policy is now managing the whole life cycle of my data protection, and really gives us that simple deployment, but also reporting methodology. We can say, look, which machines are not in SLA? What machines do we not have those backups for? What machines are we missing recovery points for? And we can report on that. So the analytics built into the solution is very powerful as well. Cool. Well, let's jump in, take a look at a little bit more in depth and go through a bit of a demo. So the first thing you'll do is jump into onesystem.storagecraft.com. If you're not already registered, you'll need to do that first. But basically, you'll log in here and it will take you to the dashboard. Now, I do have a number of machines already set up here, so I do have a bit of information already displaying. But the first thing you're going to do is jump down into configuration and go to sites. Now, you will have a default site. I've already got 2 sites that I've added in already that have been configured. So I'm going to go ahead here and add a new site. So this might be for a customer location. I'm going to call mine Auckland for my Auckland office where I am right now and go save. And this will give me a site ID. I will be able to later assign a default policy to be the default for any new machines for backup. With ShadowSafe, we have to add a service node registration token to deploy service nodes. With the Solo, we don't have to do that. So I can just basically leave this as is for now. And then jump across to the service nodes page. So the next thing at this point is to make sure your Solo is plugged into Ethernet and power and turned on. It will take a few minutes to start up. It will pick up a DHCP address and start talking with our cloud. You will need to make sure that your environment does have DHCP. If not, you can connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot on the device to set it up. And I'll show you that briefly in a moment. The other thing is when it does start up, the first thing it will do is go and update itself. So just give it a few minutes if you're expecting it to pop up. Now for additional Solo devices, they will automatically be registered so that you can claim them straight away, but for the first one you will need to claim it. So on the back of the Solo you'll have a claim code, so you'll just need to go and grab that, put that in here and go save, and it's now popped up here telling me this machine is ready to be claimed and good to go. So under the site tab, this is where I can go and select that site I just created. So you can see these other two sites already have service nodes deployed there, so I can't select them, but I can select this new site. So I've got that there and click save. Now within a few moments this will automatically appear here for me. It'll confirm the version number, the site that it's attached to, it'll tell me its IP address and other bits of information. It will take a few moments to go and populate all of that information. This particular Solo, I have gone and put in a 2.5-inch hard drive into it. I think it's about a 700 gig hard drive. So I'll show you in a moment that will automatically get configured as well. So I'll just go ahead here and refresh the browser. I think that might pull down, there we go, the IP address. So I'm just going to connect to this first just to show you what that experience would be. So IP port 9090. So same thing, if you connect to the hotspot of the Solo, it'll be in your Wi-Fi called OneSafe Solo. You'll need to grab the Wi-Fi key off the back of it, and you'll connect via root and as well as the serial number. So you'll log in. Under networking, you'll see here the Ethernet adapter, so you can come in here and go on and set that to manual. So that'll allow you to give it a static IP. So you only need to do that if your network doesn't have DHCP. There's no problems leaving a Solo on DHCP. The other devices will be able to locate it through the cloud discovery, what its IP address is. So really simple. But if I go over to storage, you'll see here there is already a hard drive in it, a 700 gig hard drive. If I jump over to one system, we'll see here that that's already been added in. That's this device here. I can see it's assigned to my same Auckland site and it's a local disk. So that's already been configured. But if I jump back here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and plug in, I think this is about a 1.8 or 2 terabyte USB hard drive. So I'm going to go and plug this in. So it hasn't popped in here yet, but it has detected it in one system. So it's giving me the option to claim that as a actual drive that I want to use. So yeah, it won't default format the USB drive like it did for the internal drive. So I'm going to click here and click claim. So you can give it a name. So this is obviously the USB drive. I'm just going to put in here USB my password. You don't need to use encryption. It's up to you. The internal drive is encrypted by default. So yeah, what I might do here is, because it's a USB drive, it's probably a good idea to have encryption in case something accessed that device that you didn't want to. So it's going to go ahead here now. It'll actually go and format that drive. And configure that. But jump back over here in the storage, we should actually see that come through once it's set up as well. Here we go, 1.82 terabytes. So that's configured itself as well. So very much automated. You didn't even need to go into this cockpit. I was really just doing it to show you what happens. But that will populate in there in a moment as well. So let's just refresh this page. There we go, I can see the green tick, USB passport, say it's an external drive, it's got encryption and compression on there as well. So at this point, we've got the Solo up and running. We've now got the local backup storage configured. Now I don't have to use local backup storage. I can, of course, backup direct to cloud, or I could use local storage and then replicate a copy to the cloud. So while I'm in here, if we go in and add storage, I've got the option to add an existing NAS storage if I have some on site that I want to use, but also the StorageCraft Cloud. So I'll call this STCDR as a service. I'm going to make that for my Auckland site and then put in my cloud username and password. Now you will need to define an encryption password. So even if your backup storage isn't encrypted, you'll need to use an encryption password for the cloud. So click save. That's going to go and validate that I've put in the correct usernames and passwords, and that's gone and added that as well. So now I've got options to back up direct to cloud or back up to some local storage first and then replicate a copy to the cloud. So we'll start to build a bit of a policy for that. Now, before I do that, I want to get a machine up and running with the agent. So if I jump back to the Sites tab, with the agent, I'm going to need an agent registration token. So I click Generate Token if I haven't already done that. I'm going to need this token as well as the site ID. So if we jump across now to a virtual machine I've got running, go in here and install the agent. Of course, if I was running Hyper-V or VMware, I could just install the host-based backup option. I don't have to install the agent, but that's the option I'm going to do today. So now it's asking me, where is the one system? Is it in the cloud, which it is, or is it self-hosted? So with the Solo, we use the Cloud One system. If it's a Hyper-V host, you'll install the Hyper-V host-based backup and restore. If it's a physical server or a VM that you want the agent on, you'll install it from here. If it's a VMware environment, we can add that from one system. So we'll look at that in a moment. So on this machine, I'm going to install the Windows Backup Agent. I now need the agent registration token, which is here. So I can go back and copy that and then just paste that back into this VM. And then the site ID, which is this one here. So I can copy that as well. Go next and just install into default location is fine here. So this is now installing the backup agent on this machine. It'll automatically register itself into one system with those details, and I'll be able to start backing that up. So I'm going to go ahead here and finish. It will need a reboot for the backup agent. If I was installing the Hyper-V host-based backup on the physical hypervisor, that agent does not require a reboot. So this is just for the backup agent. While that's rebooting, what we can do is go and configure the policy. So over here in the menu, we have an option for the policies. So I'm going to create a new policy. I'm going to call this AKL Solo hard drive. And this is where I can basically choose the frequency of the backup, the destination. I can back up directly to StorageCraft Cloud, to the USB drive, or to the hard drive. So that's the option there that I'm going to go with. I can now choose local retention, so the default, keep the hourly snapshots for 7 days, the end of day for 14 days, 6 end of week, and 12 months. So I can wind this up to 7 years or 10 years if I need. There's no problem there. Obviously, it depends on your storage and the rate of change as to how quickly you're going to consume that storage. But then for replication, I can then go and add in a replication to StorageCraft Cloud. So there's my StorageCraft Cloud. I can choose to do that hourly or just daily. So very easy. If you do have a C drive, obviously plug that in first, and we can instruct it to use the C drive for the initial backups that get returned by courier. Otherwise, it will just go ahead and upload that directly to the cloud. So that's the policy I'm going to go with. Click Save. And now here over in the protection page, here's a number of machines that I've already got configured in another site. But if I just scroll down to Auckland, that's the site we just created, I can see here, here's my machine. So I can select that machine, assign policy, there's my Solo policy that I created, click Save, and I can actually hop over here and ask it to run that backup right now. So really it's as simple as that. I'm now up and running. I'm now backing up machines. We've now got options around file and folder recovery, around disaster recovery, whether it be on-site or in the cloud. But at this point, it's all set up, it's all running. It's really as simple as that. I will just mention that if you are using VMware under environments, this is where we see what's been installed. So I can see for Auckland, I've installed one agent. In my Sydney site, I've installed a Hyper-V agent on a Hyper-V server. There's another 14 machines there that I can go and back up via host-based. And if you're using VMware, which I've also added in my Sydney site, it discovers them as well. So to add in VMware or an ESXi host, click on this button here. And then using the site that you select, such as Sydney, it's going to use the service node or Solo at that site to connect to the vCenter or ESXi host and capture that information from there. So with VMware, when you're using the Solo, there's nothing you have to install into the VMware environment to do the host-based backup. It's all done via the APIs. If you are going to do the virtual boot into VMware, you will need to install the biofilter driver. So that is driven via the deployment tool. You'll run that on a machine in the environment, and it will install the biofilter into the vSphere cluster, which enables the virtual boot. So if I just jump back here and have a look at that machine that we just selected before, I can see it's already doing its backup. So it's transferring pretty much at line speed here to that internal hard drive on the Solo. Once that has done that backup, I think I told it to replicate daily. So it will grab a couple more backups the remainder of today, and then at midnight it'll consolidate that into an end of day and go and replicate that to the StorageCraft cloud. Once it's done that first backup, I can jump in here and select replicate now to kick that off right away if I want to get that backup or a particular recovery point into the cloud updated. So that's available from within the machine in the job details. Just taking a quick look at the recovery, I'm going to use another site here, my Sydney office. That's where I've got a Hyper-V and VMware environment to show you, but basically we can go in here and select a machine. It will load up all of the available recovery points that I'm available to recover from. So I'm going to go ahead here and select one of these. And then basically we choose what we want to call it. So we'll call it recovery 123. So that's the original server name, recovery 123. I will choose to restore into Hyper-V. 1 CPU, 4 gig of RAM, that's what originally that machine had. I can choose, Hyper-V Gen 1, Gen 2. I've got the option to instant boot. Migrate will automatically trigger the backfill, so obviously for testing we don't have to do that. Automatically power on. So click next and recover. But basically it's that easy. This is going to go ahead here, create a new job and initiate that restore. If I just go ahead here and jump into my Hyper-V environment while that's running, we will see here this VM in fact has already been created. So it just got created a few moments ago and is going through that boot process. So really, really quick and simple to initiate a recovery from one system. If I go back into completed jobs here, we'll see that backup, that restore took a matter of about six split seconds to initiate the creation of the VM and finish what one system had to do, and then it was really just waiting for Hyper-V to assign the resource and power that VM. So very, very quick. If I go and do that restore again, so again I'll select the same machine, and this time we could go through and select the VMware environment just to show you very much the same process, very, very quick and easy to initiate a recovery. So physical server, recovery 1, 2, 3, 4, and this time I'll choose my vCenter environment. Again, it's found a host, data store. I can assign networking, CPU memory, instant virtual boot. Again, I don't have to migrate the data for testing, which just makes it nice and simple. I don't need to, wait for a whole backfill to trickle through in the background. And also I don't need a whole heap of space, so I can just virtual boot off the backup image. So again, click recover. If I jump back into my lab here, I think I've already got vCenter open, but I can see there that VM's actually just in the process of getting created, and we're waiting for VMware to assign the resource and actually turn that on. So the whole process is extremely quick from a ShadowSafe and OneSafe Solo perspective to handover for VMware to take over and actually boot the machine. But very, very simple process to initiate a recovery. So there we go. So I've actually got that same recovery point booting into Windows, into Hyper-V, as well as into VMware at the same time. Very, very easy process. Those backups could be located on a Solo hard drive. They could be on NAS on site. It could be the backups that have been sent directly to the StorageCraft cloud. It will create the VM. It will start booting. Obviously, the performance of the boot will be dependent on where it has to get that information from. In this case, it's going to be getting hammered because I'm booting it up twice on 2 different environments here, but very, very easy for a recovery operation. Well, that's pretty much the end of the demo, what I wanted to show here, but thanks for coming along, and hopefully this gives you a bit of guidance into how easy the OneSafe Solo is in terms of plug and play. Thank you.